On this week's very special episode of Rock Resurgence Radio, we're cranking up the amps and diving into the first 5 albums of one of hair metal's most beloved bands, Warrant. Joining us for this special episode is a true connoisseur of all things hair metal, the legendary hair metal guru. With his deep knowledge and boundless passion for the genre, Hair Metal Guru will help us explore the hits, the hidden gems, and the untold stories behind Warrant's incredible music. We'll also pay tribute to the late, great Jani Lane, whose voice and songwriting defined Warrant's sound and left an indelible mark on rock history. Get ready to relive the glory days of rock as we celebrate the sound and spirit of Warrant. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Rock Resurgence Radio. My name is Chad, the host, and
I'm your co-host, Bergie.
You'll probably notice something a little different on the screen. We got another guy with us. His name is Anthony, otherwise known as the Hair Metal Guru. He's out of Fargo, North Dakota.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on. We've been chatting music and about our channels for a while, so it's an honor to be here. If you don't know, if the people that are watching don't know, my channel is at Hair Metal Guru, and I do the same stuff these guys do, talk about, the greatest musical genre of all time, hair metal. You can also find me on X at Hair Metal Guru. So guys, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, it has been a little time in the making, but it's finally here. We were thinking about doing it last weekend, and Mother's Day kind of put a kibosh to that. So probably good for us not to upset the mothers, or they might take away our toys.
Right.
And I am a mama's boy, by the way, so.
Well, him too. Mine passed here about a year ago, so.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
It's all good. She was cool. So,
okay.
We're going to let Chris do a little history on the band Warrant. That's what we're talking about. We're going to do an episode with the Hair Metal Guru about the band Warrant, and we're going to rank the first 5 albums, which are the Jani albums, because we're all Jani fans, and it's just not Warrant without Jani. So Chris is going to do a little bit of that, and believe it or not, the Hair Metal Guru is a bigger Warrant fan than Chris and I put together. Probably.
And that's hard to be.
It really is, but we're going to dive into each album, talk about each album, and then we're going to pick, our 3 favorite songs off each album. And then at the end, we'll probably just rank the albums. Each one of us rank them 1 through 5. So with that being said, let's let Chris do a little bit of history on Warrant.
All right. Warrant is an American glam metal band formed in 1984 in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. That experienced success from 1989 to 1996 with 5 albums reaching international sales of over 10 million. The band first came into the national spotlight with their double platinum debut, Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich, and one of its singles, Heaven, which reached number 1 in Rolling Stone and number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. We've talked about this before. Milli fucking Vanilli kept them from the top spot. Anyway, band's success continued in the early 1990s with double platinum album Cherry Pie, which provided the hit song of the same name. Following the critically acclaimed gold album, Dog Eat Dog, the band started to experience frequent changes to the lineup, and despite the drop in popularity with the arrival of grunge, they released Ultraphobic in 1995 and a successful greatest hits album in 1996. The band also changed their musical direction with the release of the grunge-influenced Belly to Belly in 1996, but returned to their roots very quickly by the end of the decade. The band experienced highs and lows in the 2000s with successful tours, a new covers album under the influence, lead singer Jani Lane leaving, a new album called Born Again with black and blue singer Jamie St. James, and a brief reunion of the original lineup. In 2011, Jani Lane passed away, alcohol poisoning. And we're just going to leave it there as far as history goes. That's as far as we're going to go into that, and we're going to jump into their first album, Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich.
Okay, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich came out in 1989, which is a great year for Chris and I. We both graduated that year. Really good album. No fillers really on this album at all. There's one that I'm not particularly fond about, but it's a good album nonetheless. It probably has one of my favorite all-time ballads of all time, and it is my
On our
favorite ballad from our ballads
yeah,
episode. So, no, just a great album all around. Do you have any good stories about this one? I know you've seen these guys like 31 times or something to that effect.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that album, I was sitting in a truck at my cousin's farm, and my buddy or my cousin went out to, like, check the cows or some shit, and he left, and here I'm listening to these songs, and he comes back in, like, 15 minutes, and I'm like, "Geez, like, can you keep that playing?" And it just became, like, this, like, "I need to have this," and so in '89, Warrant and Skid Row were the 2 bands I really gravitated to, so, um, I didn't see Warrant live until the Dog Eat Dog album. I know we'll get into that, but I just, Heaven and Sometimes She Cries, I thought were 2 of the best ballads of that genre, and Down Boys was so utterly catchy. I don't know if I think the older I get, some of the songs I tend to skip, but, I think in the grand scheme of the history of hair metal, DRFSR, stands on its own. So, I mean, it's a phenomenal album.
for sure. Was this? I can't remember your recent episode. Was this one of your top 10 debuts for hair metal bands?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I
this
thought
this
so.
did make top 10
Watched it like 2
debuts.
or 3 nights ago, but
I haven't seen it yet. I will though.
And I did an episode on the top 10 hair metal ballads of all time, and it wasn't at number 1, but Heaven, I think, came in at number 4. So, I mean, who doesn't know and love that song? And you're right, Milli Vanilli, those cheating little fuckers kept Heaven from the number 1 spot, so kind of ironic.
crushed me. I mean, I didn't get anything from them if they went number 1, but it was just a thing, like, and then later to have it come out that they, like you said, cheating little
Right,
whatever, but
Yeah.
right.
backing tracks could be a whole nother episode, for
Yep,
Oh, I
yep,
know. I got a kind of funny story about this too. I got this cassette back in the day, and this is 89. So I got it, and we were on a school trip with I think I had a good friend Jade who is also into the same stuff we are, and we were down in Bismarck, North Dakota, doing something. I can't remember what the hell it was. Might have been touring the capital or some damn thing like that. And
right.
we were there, and I had this cassette, and he had the first Winger cassette. And the the dumbass that I am, I was just like, I'd had it for a while, and I'm like, whatever. And Jade says, "Oh, I really like that Warrant," and I go, "Well, I'll trade you for that Winger," and I traded him my dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking rich for a Winger, and I do not even listen to Winger anymore. So, yeah, dumb. Hey, I made a lot of dumb trades like that,
yeah,
but
that was a good album too, but anyway, that's
yeah,
another
it was a
episode.
good album. Yeah.
Hey, if we did a video about the dumb shit that we've done in the past, we'd be here all week. So,
Oh God, no doubt. All the shit we did was done before there was video of everything.
right, right, right.
One my quick story about
Yep.
this album is the song Heaven, of course. I met my wife in the summer of 1989, and that's our song. So
Right.
it's always going to be number 1 for me just because of that. We were just talking before we started this episode, going through some of the albums, and this album has Heaven and Sometimes She Cries are the 2 ballads, and they're both really good songs.
Both.
Overall, I feel like the next 2 albums we're going to talk about have even better ballads in some ways. So,
Right. I don't think Sometimes She Cries gets enough credit because I mean, Heaven's obviously the big one on that album, but Sometimes She Cries, like, lyrically is kind of I mean, the opening line, "Mercy don't think she's pretty no more." I mean, that's kind, like, when you think about it, that's kind of deep. So, I Heaven's the big one, but I think Sometimes She Cries is almost as good. And Down Boys and Big Talk, they had 2 strong rock singles. So, I mean, 4 singles from a debut album, double platinum, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's going through this and listening to these albums again is it brings you back to a time when shit was fun. Everything wasn't so serious. That's what I like about doing this stuff. It takes me way back to those 80s and 90s or mid 80s to mid 90s when
Right.
things weren't so damn serious, and and the
Yep.
country wasn't so divided, and everybody was pretty much got along. And
Yep.
that's the great thing about music. You listen to it, brings you back to a certain place, a certain time, and yeah, it's going to be tough to pick three songs from
Sure.
each album. I know I'm struggling,
Yeah, and
all the
we
way through.
we didn't pick in advance, so
No, I
just kind
didn't.
of
I got
flying
an
by
I.
the seat of our pants like always.
I mean, I
So
got
what
an.
would you guys say are like your top favorite songs on that album?
I'll go first. If I put a gun to my head, I would say, um, oh boy, I think Down Boys, Big Talk, and Heaven would probably be my three.
Right. Right.
But I mean, 32 Pennies is awesome. Sometimes She Cries is awesome. The only one I'm not crazy about is In the Sticks. It was okay,
Right.
but yeah, I mean,
I I I
Down.
love the singles, so I'd be right with you on the singles. If I had to pick one song that wasn't a single, I thought that "Riding High" was super catchy, like, it almost could have been a single, but otherwise, I'm right with you, "Down Boys," "Heaven," "Sometimes She Cries," and "Big Talk" was great too, so
Yeah, and So Damn Pretty Should Be Against the Law is
yeah,
really good too. I think that's
yeah.
great too. So yeah, it's pretty tough. What about you, Mr. Chris?
Well, it is very tough. I have to pick for one of my three is going to be Down Boys because that's the song that made me buy the album in the
Yeah,
first place. Maybe I saw a video on Headbangers Ball or somewhere, but that made me buy the album, and it came out looks like end of January of 1989. So
Yep.
that's one. Heaven, of course, because it has that special place in my heart kind of thing. And
yeah,
then I think I'm gonna go with So Damn Pretty should be against the law for my third one,
that is a good
just
song.
to have a little mix in there.
Right.
Which remind me, guys, which Cold Sweat and Riding High. Just listen to this album. Which is the one that he talks about leather coated lover with a tattoo on his heart, or is that?
I know that line, I don't know what song it is.
Yeah, I know.
God,
I
I almost
can't
want to
think of.
listen to it now.
Well,
Is it
I
Cold?
mean, we have that ability to do that
Let me
if you
just
want to.
play the first couple seconds of Riding High. I think that's the song I'm thinking of, but
Okay.
that's it. That's the one.
Yep, yep,
So
that's
that's in there too. Like that was one of yours, right, Anthony?
yep,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah, man, is that a good song? That whole album is so good.
yep,
Yeah, the
Oh man.
first line is since the day that I was born. I've been around the
yep.
block.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
just a leather coated lover with a tattoo on my cock. He says in the live version.
If you haven't seen, there is a video, and I think it's either from early '89. It's got to be from very early '89, and they're playing in like Nebraska or some shit at a small club, and to see Warrant and the album is out because everybody knows the song Down Boys. And to see them in that kind of venue and Jani Lane is just young and excited. I mean, you're like, "Oh, what could have been?" So,
I,
go check that shit out because it's amazing.
I saw them. That's another reason why Down Boys is one of my favorites because they always got up on each other's shoulders, and then
Yep.
believe it or not, they had guys on their shoulders, and they would go down to their knees.
Yeah.
Guys on their shoulders, like seriously,
We get
it was
seriously injured.
unreal. They were so good in concert, man.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Yep.
That's the big reason why I'm such a big Warrant fan, because the live experience is like none other. And if you haven't seen it, well, you're not going to see it for one
Yeah.
with Jani Lane. But if you didn't get a chance to experience this, when they were just coming out and becoming, I saw them on Cherry Pie too. I didn't see them on Dog Eat Dog, but in those first couple of years and those first couple of albums, they were so energetic live and
Yep.
so damn good. It was, and I was watching an interview today, kind of in preparation of this today, and they were interviewing, and it seemed to be every interview was Jerry Dixon and Jani Lane for some reason, but
Right.
uh, they were talking about how they are live and very energetic, and he goes, we want people to have a good time. We are there to entertain them. And he goes, and I'm not shy on the mic. I like to talk. And it is very true, because when he was going live, he talked between the songs, and it was very entertaining. He kept you on the edge of your seat the whole night. It was so good.
Yep. I mean, I saw Warrant live a lot, and I've seen most of the big bands, and when he was at his best, I don't think I ever saw a frontman who could handle a crowd and could command a crowd and vocally hit everything without missing a note. I never saw anybody else like Jenny Lane.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't second that more enthusiastically. And that myself, that is why I'm so attracted to this band, and what he did live just sends chills down
Yeah,
your spine. He
right,
was so good.
Yeah, and I think
right.
talked on episodes before about I'm not a musician, but I'm a huge lyric guy, and his lyrics speak to me in a way
They do.
that none that they were when they came on the scene. To me, I feel like they got a lot of comparisons to Poison, and I feel like I
Yeah.
even heard somebody say that, oh, the poor man Poison, poor man's Poison Warrant. No, they were uh, I don't want to say head and shoulders above Poison, but
No,
in a way, they were for me.
lyrically, 10 times.
And
But
especially when you start getting into these next couple albums that we're going to talk about, then the lyric quality really jumped.
right.
So
And what I mean, you can't take anything away from Poison, because I've seen them many a times live too, and they are really, really good live too. Even up into this last tour with Motley Crue, I mean, they they were the best in show on that
mhm,
tour.
yeah,
I mean, to me anyway. I mean, especially you hear all this stuff about tracking and all that stuff, and I understand it's a kind of a big deal nowadays, and I get it. But whatever, we got to talk about that at some point too. It drives me nuts, but whatever. Because there was no tracking back when Janie was doing this stuff, and it was awesome. It was beyond belief. I mean, you can't tell somebody who hasn't seen it how good it is, because they won't
right.
believe
Yeah, I regret only seeing Warrant with Jani Lane one time, and it was in '98 at Rock of the.
Oh,
you.
So it
Yeah.
was way after. Like I wish, and I've watched some of these on YouTube. There's some concert footage of
Oh yeah,
the Warrant Firehouse
yes,
Trickster.
Trickster. Yep,
That would
yeah.
have been the one to see, I think.
that's the one I saw.
Oh shit.
Fargo at the Red River Valley Fair, and we were talking about this before we came on the air here, and in that concert they played Inside Out.
Yep. On the Cherry Pie tour,
Yep, they played it on
even though
that.
that came out on Dog Eat Dog.
Yep, they played that, and it was like insane. I was like, oh man, that's so different. And I was just banging my head, and I was kind of half shot. But
Should we segue that into the next album then, Cherry Pie?
why don't we do that? Yeah, let's move on from this one. I mean, damn good debut, and you can't, I mean, if it made hair metal gurus top, how many did you do on your
Top
episode?
10 debuts.
Top 10? If he made
Yep. And well, and there was another guy, so we had 20,
okay,
That's right. You shared
but
your
yeah, it's in my top 10.
Did you share your list in advance or no?
So you didn't have any repeats?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do that because I don't want to repeat, but
No, that's no big deal.
yeah.
You do what you got to do.
Yep.
Okay, well, the second album that they came out with is called Cherry Pie. First single, I think, was Cherry Pie, which, I'm sure we're going to talk about. What year did this come out, Chris?
Um,
90.
yeah,
90?
90.
90? Okay, so just a year later. Um, excellent album, and we're going to get into it. And I'm going to let Hair Metal Guru kind of start us off on this and tell us a little something about it, and I'll
Sure.
chime in with my seeing them live in Fargo.
Yeah, so I was actually supposed to see them in Fargo. The Cherry Pie tour opened up in Bismarck and came to Fargo the next night. Well, I was working at a place called North Dakota Tourism, and I had to go on this tourism trip. So I did not get to see that show. But for me, this is like I loved DRFSR, but Cherry Pie was when they became my band, and specifically because of the song I Saw Red. And I remember reading, like Metal Edge or, Hit Parader, they would have artists come on and talk about the new album and they would go through each song. Well, Jani Lane was saying that I Saw Red was the best song he had written, and he, talks about the story about walking in on his girlfriend, she's with another person, and that's the inspiration for the song. Well, that didn't happen to me, but I had a first love in high school that I just was head over heels in love with, and the relationship ended like that. So I remember thinking I need to hear it. So the day the album came out, I was actually in Bismarck, bought it on cassette, and was driving around with a buddy of mine. And I'm like, I got to hear this I Saw Red song. And when that song came on, I just lost it. I was like, somebody actually wrote a song about me,
Right?
and that was where Warrant, instead of being, hey, a favorite band of mine, they became, my favorite band.
Your thing.
That's a good freaking story, I gotta say. And it's so weird. I find this happens. I've gone through plenty of breakups and this and that. It seems like after you break up with somebody, every song, if you're listening to the radio, or every song you hear is about that. I don't know what that is, but it seems to be a thing with me anyway. I don't know if that's with anybody else, but
Do either of you guys know this tour, the Cherry Pie tour? Was there a separate? Was it separate from the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, or do you know when it started? Like when the tour actually would have started?
I think they did dates with Poison before the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, and if I understand the story right, a lot of people know that CC DeVille played on the song Cherry Pie. Well, part of the reason that Warrant invited him to do that is because they thought, hey, this might help us get in the good graces with Poison and get on the Poison tour. Well, they did, and then they left the Poison tour because Poison apparently started restricting, like they couldn't go everywhere on the stage, and all the stuff. I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Ego.
So Poison left the tour, and then I don't know exactly, I know they did some dates with David Lee Roth on that tour, but then the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour with Firehouse and Trickster started up in it must have been May or early June of 90, and that's the tour where they did the live video, the pay-per-view, and everything. So
wow, I'm sure Poison did that because they were getting showing up every night
oh shit, yes.
for sure, guaranteed.
I'm just trying to figure out how I missed this tour. If it was in Bismarck and Fargo, but I joined the Navy in October of '90. So in my brain, I hope it was after I was gone and wasn't able to go to it. But I
No, it
missed a
was
lot of shows for a lot of dumb reasons. I know that.
my favorite band, Metallica. I missed their show in Minot because I didn't have enough money to go to it.
I went
for
there.
Christ's sake.
I went
I
to
know
that.
the Injustice for All tour. But
Yeah.
anyways, getting back to this, um, I know the Red River Valley Fair, I think, is in June of every year. So I'm pretty sure Anthony is correct on that.
Okay.
So it was in June when it was.
Were you
Yeah,
living in Fargo at the time?
yes,
Okay, so it was super. It's a 4.5 hour drive for me to get to Fargo,
yes, I was living in Fargo, and it was a
and
blast.
I think I was going to summer school here. But
Yeah, this,
anyway,
it's kind of cool because they had the big the stairs that came down from each side and then went up into the middle to make a big W.
Yep.
Really cool. One of the things that, I was never a, train by no means was ever a big huge favorite of mine, but it kind of became a pretty good song to me after watching this tour because Jani Lane made that song 20 minutes long. He just, he would talk to the crowd during it, and then he'd tell the band quiet down, quiet down, quiet down, and they'd quiet down, and and then he'd just talk to the crowd, and it was just amazing. And he was drunk as shit,
Sure.
but it didn't. He hit every note.
Yeah.
He didn't miss a lyric. He kept the crowd entertained, so it had no effect on what he did. It maybe made him a little looser of tongue, which is why Train went on so long. But that just added to it. It was just that much cooler to have been there. So I mean, he was, yeah, it was a freaking good show. And I can't remember who was. I think it was Trickster first, and then Firehouse, but I could be wrong on that. I don't remember.
so back to
I
Cherry
think
Pie.
it was.
Yep.
Pick our 3 favorite songs. Should we
Sure.
talk a little bit more?
Well, I mean, there's got to be more to say than that.
Oh,
I mean,
Well, I was gonna add, or one of the videos that I did on my channel was called More Than Cherry Pie, my journey with Janie Lane and Warrant, because I
yeah,
got to got to hang out with the band quite a few times, got pulled up on stage. Anyway, I was just gonna mention, that the album was, and a lot of, if you're a big hair metal fan, a lot of people know this. The album was supposed to be called Uncle Tom's Cabin. And when the band gave the album to the record label and they're like, here it is, and the president said, "Hey, I need something like Love in an Elevator." So Janie goes and writes Cherry Pie that weekend. And, if you know the story, like later on, there's a video where he's saying, like, I could shoot myself in the fucking head for writing that song. He hated being the Cherry Pie guy. And, so anyway, so that song has kind of, like, I still like it. It came, but when you know that that became such an albatross around his neck, that it just kind of makes me feel sad that that song is such a huge part of their legacy, because there's so much more than that.
it's so funny you say that because I I liked the song too when it came out. Hey, catchy, very catchy. But I didn't know this story about Jenny Lane hating this song for writing it, but I started hating it just because it was on the radio so damn
Sure.
much. All anybody wanted to hear was Cherry Pie. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's not even close to the best song on this album. It's like 10th, you know? I'm like,
Yeah.
why does everybody want to hear this, And
Yeah.
Uncle Tom's Cabin, really excellent song. So I can't hate that song, but I did get sick of it because that was on the radio a lot, and a lot of people got into that one as well. And then I just kind of quit listening to people because I'm just like, you guys just shut up. I mean, I played it when I wanted to play it, and not because they wanted to listen to it. Because I was kind of always the guy with the stereo at the parties for some reason. But yeah, but I got sick of hearing, "Hey, play Cherry Pie." Oh God, really?
Yeah, and obviously Janie did too.
Yeah.
I and all the times I saw Warrant, and in between every fucking song, there's somebody shouting, "Play Cherry Pie." And I would turn to and I'd say, "It's coming. It'll be at the end. Just stop
I know,
saying, 'Play Cherry Pie.'" It would drive me up a wall.
right? I know that drives me nuts. you know it's their one of their biggest songs, and they have to almost play it.
Yes. Yes.
So just sit back, little pony, and wait your turn.
It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if that song had never been recorded, if the album came out as Uncle Tom's Cabin, because Uncle Tom's Cabin was gonna be a huge hit. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that was so unlike anything that anyone else was doing.
Do
And
you
then
think that would be the lead single off that album then, or if you were the record guy who said I need a hit on this and it needs to be like "Love in an Elevator," and he, all right, I'm gonna write "Cherry Pie." It, did this guy not listen to the album? It's
right.
fucking great. But what
Yes.
would be the big single to lead off with? What do you think?
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Okay,
Yeah. Back in the day, they always released a kind of a rocker and then a ballad
Yeah.
afterwards. So, yeah, that would probably be it. Um, I would I would have picked a different song. But,
they could have made a single out of a couple of these.
oh
I
my
think.
God, every one of them, every one
My
of them.
my my personal favorite as far as songs that weren't singles has always been Mr. Rainmaker.
Oh
I
my
knew you were
God.
going to say it.
Yep, that's my favorite on
Yeah,
that album.
ditto.
That is
Yeah.
my favorite. Well, I mean, I like them all, but that song, the beginning, I play guitar not very well, but I play, and that beginning of that little guitar stuff coming in,
Oh,
I just love that. Every time I hear it, just gives me goosebumps.
Should we listen?
Yeah, let's listen to that one for a second.
I just had to get that last line in there.
Yeah, man, that is such
Found
a
a
good
girl,
song.
permanent sunshine. I love that lyric.
Does that
yeah, it's,
loud for
and
you as it does for us? Oh my God.
if you needed a sex song to be, I mean, probably the lyrics wouldn't work, but Love in Stereo was,
Oh yeah,
you
no,
had
yeah,
all
that.
the tongue in cheek sexual lyrics. I
Oh
mean,
yes, I love that song. Um, I mean, I like every song pretty much.
yeah,
And I was watching a thing today, and I was talking to Chris about this earlier. That ode to Tipper Gore.
yeah,
That Janie was Lane was late to coming into a recording session, and the record producer, I can't remember, it's Bo something or
Oh,
another.
Oh Hill.
Yeah, was told to take all the profanity out of one of the live shows. I don't know if they were going to release something live or something or whatever, and he was told to take all the profanity out of it. So he did it, and he kind of put it all together in a little clip.
that's all from one show?
Yeah, that's from
Okay.
one show, live show. And Janie came in and he goes, "Ooh, what's that?" And the guy goes, "I was told to take all the profanity from your whatever show." And he goes, "I said that much profanity in one show?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I guess if you got to take it out, we're going to do something useful with it." And that's how it became Old Tipper Gore.
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny.
I feel like I bought we talked about this before, but when you went into Walmart or certain places, they had a clean version, and you always had to make sure you don't buy the clean version, like you said.
Yep.
If it has that explicit label on it, that helped you pick out a lot of albums.
Oh
back
yeah,
in
back
the
in
day.
the day, that was how I picked them out.
So that was on the clean version. Was there was it Thin Disguise on the
Yes.
clean version? I know that was
I-
a B-side to
I was going to bring this up
one of
too.
the singles. Was it Cherry Pie, maybe? But that's a better song.
That is a great song.
It
The
is.
same thing with the Skid Row thing. Beggar's Day and Get the Fuck Out.
Mhm.
Beggar's
I
Day
don't
is a
think
way better
Thin
song.
Disguise was on the edited version,
No?
but it was on a B-side. and then yeah, and it might have been Cherry Pie, but I don't think and I could be wrong, but I don't think it was on the edited. But that is such a phenomenal song. How did that song not make the album? I think that's a single.
Yeah, I
Right?
had the single they called them back then. It was, and I think it was Cherry Pie, and I think that came out before the album. And so I got
Yep.
my hands on some new Warrant. That was my only option until the album came out, and so I had that, and Thin Disguise. But I listened to Thin Disguise even back then more. Like I just flipped the tape over and rewind it, or
Totally.
but not that. And I did dig Cherry Pie when it came out. I mean,
Yeah, so did I. I mean,
the
it
video
was
was
super catchy, and it had
fun.
Bobby Brown in it. God, she was hot. Holy man. Anyways, but the Thin Disguise, isn't that weird? Like, even his songs that don't make the record are excellent. I mean,
And if you like, so years later, Cherry Pie was re-released with two um
Yeah,
or Cherry Pie and DRFSR were released with a couple extra songs.
Game of War.
And one of like Game of War and Only a Man, I'm like, these were songs that did not make albums, and they are just phenomenal songs. And you're like, this guy was so talented that songs that didn't make the albums, like I think should could have been on the radio. I mean,
no kidding.
it was
Another thing Chris and I were talking about, I was watching this same video that I was watching. He was playing. He was being interviewed by somebody, or he's talking to somebody, and he was playing just an acoustic, and he was playing a song called Pop Music, and another song called I Don't Want to Fight.
yep,
And he was playing it, and I'm like, holy shit, are these good? I mean, the pop
yeah.
music one wasn't as good as the I Don't Want to Fight, and I don't know if those were ever released as anything. Do you know?
Some of them are on YouTube, like the full version of Pop Music, but I think the other one was called Let's Not Fight Tonight.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
don't that's but those that is actually at the end of their home video when he's playing that, and you can find that. Yeah, those songs are amazing, and he's just like fucking around before a show.
I know, isn't that so cool? I mean, he
Yeah.
was excellent at guitar and such a
Yep.
good singer, and his lyrics are second to none. I mean, oh man, and I totally understand why you said earlier that you gravitated towards Warrant and Skid Row, because Skid Row's lyrics were excellent too.
Yep.
Yeah, just super catchy, super creative. So,
So if I was gonna go into my 3 favorite songs, I mean, if I only could pick 3,
right.
it would be Mr. Rainmaker, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I Saw Red. But there are many, Blind Faith was an amazing ballad. I mean, like you were saying, there's most of those songs could have been singles as far as I'm concerned. Bed of Roses, holy shit.
I know. Sure
And
feels good to me is actually okay.
right. So,
I mean, they're all good. The only hell your mom ever raised is probably my least favorite of them, but it's
right.
still good, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
So Anthony picked his three. You pick yours.
Yep. Very similar. Mr. Rainmaker's my favorite. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's so hard. I'll just pick three and just say I don't in no particular order.
Yep.
Mr. Rainmaker, Blind Faith, and I Saw Red.
Right.
That's tough for me. I just don't know, but I know Mr. Rainmaker is going to be there, and like you said, no particular order. I Saw Red. Did you say I Saw Red and Blind Faith? I think those are
Yep.
mine too.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a huge ballad guy, and
Well,
if I had to throw a rocker in there, it could be well,
Mr.
Uncle Tom's
Rainmaker's a
Cabin is a
rocker.
great song, and I even like Song and Dance Man.
Mr. Rainmaker's a rocker.
It is. I know. I know. I mean, I feel like I'm always picking the ballads, but
And I
we should
straight
have
up,
did two rockers and two ballads or something.
yeah,
But
I, I, uh, you know, I, I made a big thing about it. I said, "You're the ballad guy," and I'm picking a lot of ballads because Warrant ballads are different than other ballads.
Mm,
They're not created equal. I'm just saying.
yeah.
Agreed, and I'm a ballad guy too. I fucking love ballads. Like I think every album should have 2 or 3, and Warrant's ballads, you're right, are something different. So
Yeah, every album, if they're written as good as Warrant or Skid Row ballads, I would agree with that statement.
mhm,
Otherwise, let's keep it rocking.
right.
So moving on to Dog Eat Dog.
Dog Eat Doggy. And that was released to what year, Chris?
You
92.
had to ask me that, but I think this is,
1992.
what's the date on it?
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
curious.
I didn't look at that far. I just
Well, I'm
seen
gonna find it
1990.
while you just keep talking, or you talk.
Okay, yeah, third album, and if you are a true Warrant fan, I am told you got to pick this as your favorite, according to the Mr. Guru.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what a lot of people say.
yeah,
And
it's funny. I really had a hard time with this, Anthony. Not even gonna lie. This one and the previous one we just talked about, they're so damn good, both of them. And
Well, don't worry.
it's gonna be a tough one. I don't have as many stories about this one because I didn't see him on this tour or nothing. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of take the helm on this one. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. I yeah, we'll just go with that. And you want to start us off, Anthony? You got any good stories about
yeah. Uh, well, this was the first Warrant show that I saw, and it was at the Fargo Dome. And the first thing you notice is the times were definitely changing because whereas when they played to, I mean, was there 10,000 at on the Cherry Pie tour in Fargo.
probably?
There was probably, I mean, there was around 2,500, I bet, maybe 3,000, which, for a band that was, one of the biggest bands in the world the year or 2 years before was, but they were still phenomenal live. And I remember getting that album on cassette again because I'm an old fuck. Um, and
So are
and the first song that really, no, I didn't think Machine Gun, the first single, was, I liked that song. I didn't think it should have been the first single, but Andy Warhol was right, really grabbed me right away. And, so it was such a deeper album. I think the only Machine Gun and Bonfire are kind of sexual in nature. They sound like something that would have fit on Cherry Pie. But you started getting a lot of deeper stuff and songs that like were more introspective. And as I was growing older, I related to that. So,
I remember this came out. I didn't remember, but I looked. Came out August of '92, August 25th, so late August. I got out of the Navy active duty in July of that year, and I bought a car while I was in the Navy, a 1984 Pontiac Sunbird. It was maroon in color, and I had outfitted it with the speakers and the subwoofer, and I had the Pioneer Super Tuner 3, whatever, in there. One of my first trips to the record store was, again, to pick up a cassette, and it was this one. And I remember popping it in, and just me in the car, nobody else. I might have listened to the whole album by myself, and then went and picked up my cousin Robbie, and you got to check this out. But like you mentioned, times had changed, and while I was in the Navy, shit, whatever, maybe I think it's shit, came out, like Nirvana's Nevermind, and that I got a little bit into some of this stuff, Soundgarden, and I
yep.
can handle some Stone Temple Pilots every now and then, but this was my jam. Like I couldn't wait to hear new stuff from a hair band. I bought a lot of cassettes in '92, and there's a lot of good ones. Um, this is pretty close to the top of the heap for me of all the albums that came out that year. And
I did a I did a video called The Curse of 92,
I've
the hair
watched.
metal albums that got left behind. There were so and these bands were, you could tell they were impacted by grunge. They didn't go full grunge, but they started ditching the pardon me, suck me, fuck me lyrics and started going on to some deeper stuff. But they retained the melody, and even though the guitars were a little bit crunchier, they weren't completely grungified. And man, I some of my favorite releases were from that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some good ones that year. Um, this album, what you like the Andy Warhol was right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that one grabbed you.
Yeah. I thought it was similar to I Saw Red in a way that it's very slow and piano driven, and then it kicks in very heavy, kind of like I Saw Red does, and kind of like Uncle Tom's Cabin. And lyrically, it was more in tune with what was going on in '92 versus Machine Gun. I'm gonna love you, baby. Like, that was. I think trying to get that song played on the radio when grunge was becoming the big thing, that was a tough sell.
Yep, totally understand where you're coming from. I thought maybe it was the little kids' voices on there.
Yeah, and
That was cute too.
I
yeah,
thought so too.
being a ballad guy, good ballads on this. Bitter Pill, Let It Rain.
Sad Teresa.
Yeah, I think I can pick out my three favorites, but it's gonna be tough because
Yeah,
there's a lot of good songs on this.
I know. Oh dang it! I struggled with this one, and yeah, I struggled with this one and Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie, not so much because I'd heard that one so many goddamn times that I kind of knew where that one was going. This one I hadn't listened to 800,000 times like I did those other ones. This one was a little less, so I kind of threw it in again, and I was like, okay. Originally when the song that grabbed me the first time I listened to it probably was April 2031,
Right.
and I really dug that song. I can't tell you a reason why. I don't know if it's the melody or whatever, um, but it's a really God. There's so many good songs on this damn album.
Come
I,
on.
I have to go with 4.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to do 4, I'm cool with doing 4. That helps me out a lot.
So I'll just and I know him. And I'd be leaving off a ton of good songs, but Andy Warhol was right as the quote unquote ballad. All My Bridges Are Burning, Quicksand, and Inside Out. I think Inside Out is like one of the greatest fucking rock songs in the history of rock songs. And still to this day, that song like makes workout playlists because if you need to get jacked up and pumped up, Inside Out is where you fucking start. So those are my 4.
Okay, I'm gonna. Chris and I was just talking about this before we went on. I asked him, "Do you like Inside Out?" Because to me, that's my least favorite song on there
Ooh,
because it doesn't sound like Warrant to me.
sure.
It was like it was like them trying to be Metallica or something.
Hmm.
I mean, it's I still like it, but it's just not close to my top.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I liked it more the first time I heard it, which was at that concert because I was a little jacked up, and it was a concert, and it just like really lit you on fire that night. So I just wanted to throw that in. Not that, yeah, it's a good song, it's a good rocker, and it will get you blood pumping. I'm surprised I don't like it more. It's just different to me because I'm thinking Warrant and not Metallica or somebody
Right.
like that. Boy. Okay, Bitter Pill is one of mine. All My Bridges Are Burning. Quicksand.
Are you doing 4 too?
Yeah, I'm doing 4 too. I'm doing 4 too. And I think I'm going to throw April 2031 in there.
Nice. Well, then I get to do 4
Well,
too.
yeah,
It's only
that's
fair.
exactly. It makes it a little easier because it's hard.
Sorry if I broke the rules. But I
No,
was
Oh,
we're all
we
about
don't
breaking rules
we
around
don't
here.
care,
The first rule of Fight Club is there are no rules.
that's
right?
right.
All right, something like that.
Something to that effect.
But I got to say this about April 2031 just really quick. That came out in 1992, and you hear it and you think about it, and it's got so far in the future. We're less than 7 years from April 2031.
That's right.
It's craziness.
unreal. But anyway, so my top 4, not in any particular order. I'm going to take Machine Gun, even though it's, you know, we talked about it could have been on Cherry Pie.
Yep.
I'm going to pass on April 2031. I'm going to pick The Bitter Pill. I'm just looking down the track list. So I've got 2. And then I'm going to take Hollywood So Far So Good. I love that song. I love how catchy it is to me. It catches me. Yeah. I love it. And then another ballad, Sad Teresa, to finish out the album. Those are my 4.
I'm shocked that nobody, because I thought, being that you guys are ballad guys and I'm a ballad guy too, that somebody would have picked Let It Rain. But I mean,
Too.
there's so many good ballads. Shit.
Yeah.
The Bitter Pill. And I'm sure you guys know this, but like with I Saw Red, they did an acoustic version of I Saw Red. They
Yep.
also did an acoustic version of The Bitter Pill, and there is a video for it, and it's amazing.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, shit, I'm gonna have to check that out now.
Yep. It's phenomenal.
Cool.
So moving on to album number 4.
Album number 4, which is Ultraphobic. That was released in 1995, and so it's 3 years before they came out with this one. And I'm just gonna say it right out now, right out. A lot of people that weren't fans didn't like this. I fucking loved it. I thought it was awesome. And it was a little. You could hear little twinges of grunge in there, like on Undertow. I mean, just the way it started off. But I thought this was excellent. Is it going to make my top 3? Yeah, we'll see. But as far as an album goes, I mean, to me, that's 4 freaking strong albums in a row. I mean, and I think that's pretty fantastic. You don't normally get that from a band. You might get 1 or 2, and then they kind of, they'll have a stinker or whatever. But 4 in a row, that's pretty good.
Does anybody know album sales on this one?
Yeah, I don't think
I mean, it never got certified. Dog Eat Dog did go gold, but I mean, so I don't think, because it never got certified, it definitely didn't go gold.
And obviously, that's not the standard by which we rank these for sure. But
Right.
I think it did very good, and
It'd be interesting to know like how many it did sell.
I know I bought it twice.
yeah, I wasn't into this one
It
very
got
much.
stolen once.
I mean, at least not right away. Definitely listened to it more lately, but
yeah, I don't know. I freaking loved it. It was different to me when it first came out. It sounded different, but man, I really like it. I don't know what you think. What do you think of Anthony?
This is framed behind me.
Yep.
Bought that at the show, and luckily it didn't get trashed. It's an album flat. Anyway, I bought it the day it came out, and I'll be honest, I brought it home and put it in, and my first thought was, "What the fuck did you guys do?" Because it does definitely. I mean, it's dark, and there definitely is some grunge influence. So if you bought that thing thinking that I'm gonna get Cherry Pie Part 2 or even Dog Eat Dog Part 2, you were not going to get that. But the more I listened to it, and the more I was like, okay, don't judge it based on the earlier albums. Just judge it based on its lonesome, just on itself. And I've shared, like, I had a big drinking problem and things were starting to go wrong in my life around 95. So for that reason, some of those dark, desperate songs, I was like, you know what? Wait, 4 or 5 listens in, like, wait, I relate to that. Like, oh, I kind of feel like that. Like all, that he's talking about in like undertow, like I'm getting dragged down, and things used to be going my way, and now I'm like I'm barely surviving. So I gravitated to that. And then there is Stronger. He talked again in magazines about this song Stronger Now being the best song he'd ever written. Well, I have I Saw Red tattooed right there, and I have Stronger Now tattooed right there. And so that was the first song I was like, well, at least Stronger Now is a great song. But then more and more listens, I now I love that album. I really love that album.
I know. I think it's so good. And you know what? I was just looking. Jani Lane is the sole contributor on Stronger Now.
And I mean, you can look up most of the songs. Like he wrote everything, and the band acknowledged, like, hey, they were not songwriters. I think he wrote. There might have been a couple
Yeah.
contributors here and there, but generally he wrote every song on every album.
Yeah. No, I knew that, but I know a lot of the times there's like co-writers or somebody
Right.
throws the word and they get credit, you know.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this one and Sum of One
I talk a
on this
lot
album.
about this, that you got to listen to an album probably 3, 4 times before you can judge it. And this one, when it first came out, I was like you, like, what is this? This is not, well, it's not Cherry Pie Part 2, or it's not even, like you said, Dog Eat Dog. But to me, yeah, it wasn't Warrant upon first listen. And I don't think I gave it a fair enough chance right away. So I kind of put it in the cassette rack and didn't listen to it for the longest time. Going back and listening to it, I don't want to say now, but more recently, which came out in 95, I listened to it a lot before I went and saw them in 98, because I'm like, I know I'm going to hear some of these songs probably. And the next album that we're going to talk about came out in 96. So I had bought in both of these when they first came out. But both of them, I didn't give them a fair chance, I don't think, for the longest time. Before I went to see them again than I did. I think I can pick my 3 songs easy on this one.
Yeah.
I've done so I'm sorry. I've done exactly what you talked about. Bought an album, listened to it once, bailed on it because it's not good. And then maybe even years later, somebody says, "Oh, that's a great album." Put it back in a couple times, and you go, "Shit, I was really missing out." So I can completely relate.
That's where I was.
I think we've all done that. You know, just not what you expected, but I can say honestly, the first time I heard it, the first go through, I was like, I don't know, you know, but I kind of gravitated. I kind of went with the flow. I liked some Nirvana. I liked some Pearl Jam, and I liked some of that stuff. Like the first album from Pearl Jam was really good, and I like Stone Temple Pilots, and I like Soundgarden, and all that. So I kind of went into that. I got into that shit. I still loved my hair, but I kind of went with the flow and went along. But the first time I heard this, it was just, it's kind of like Inside Out. You know, it was different.
Yep.
It wasn't what I was expecting, but there was like 3 or 4 songs that kind of stood out to me. Chameleon really stood out to me. I really liked that song first time I listened to it, and Ultraphobic, I really liked that one. They just had a good, um, I don't know, flow or whatever, harmonies or melodies or whatever you want to call it, but they just kind of grabbed me. Those are the only 2 that really kind of jumped out at me right away, and so I kept listening to it and kept listening to it, and man, it just grew into a really solid album for me, I guess. So
So you
I
started to pick your 3 songs, it seems
pretty
like.
much
So,
there's 2 of them.
okay.
Yeah.
You want
You
to
want
just
the third one?
pick your 3 and I'll pick mine, and then we'll let the guru pick his 3.
Okay. Yep. Chameleon, Ultraphobic, and Sum of One.
Okay.
Those are my 3. And if I had to pick a 4th, it would be Stronger Now.
Oh, we're doing that again?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I
We're
can't.
doing that
I'm
shit
only
again?
doing 3, so.
Okay, you can't. So you do 3, but I mean, Stronger Now is a really good ballad. And to be honest with you, Anthony, I didn't give it as big of a chance, but since I saw your episode, um, and about that and getting up on stage with Janie, and I said, man, I gotta go listen to this damn song again. So I went back and listened to it, and I listened to it about 3 times, and I went, "Oh man, that is a good
Yeah.
song." So
Right.
so that became probably my fourth on that. It would be any of them. I'd listen to any of them any single day of the week.
So I will put my top three, and I'll put them in order.
Okay,
Stronger Now is by far the best song to me on this album, and that's giving away my ballad guy stuff there, but
that's
that's
okay.
I love that song. Number two, by far, is Chameleon. I dig
Mhm.
that song. The melody is great. And then number three is I'm gonna go with Family Picnic. Those are my top three.
Um, I might do 4.
Okay.
Uh, Chameleon, absolutely. Um, ultra ultraphobic, stronger now, and then there's another ballad on there, and I didn't give it credit for a while, but now when I revisit that album, I have to listen to that song twice. It's called High, song number 8, and I remember seeing that live before Ultraphobic was released, I think. So anyway, or maybe it was on YouTube. Anyway, High is a phenomenal ballad. So if you haven't revisited that one recently, check that out. That's my 4.
Cool, cool, cool. I will you play high?
Sure.
Because that's throwing me for a loop. I just can't picture it in
Yep.
my.
Start it off, yes.
Last night I had a dream about you and how you fit in my naked life. Mistakes, I guess I made a few here and there and from time to time. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I know.
Oh man, shit. Yeah, can we do 5?
I just got goosebumps. Like I love, especially when it explodes there. I'm just like, oh,
Oh man, as soon as it started, I went last night. That's
yep,
exactly what song it was, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh shit, I forget about this one."
yeah,
Such a great song.
yes.
Oh man, Warrant. I don't know. God, I don't know what else can you say about these guys other than they're just freaking fantastic and write such good songs. God, dang it! And then we got to talk about that last album. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna
I
say.
I s- I saw the Ultraphobic tour a few times because they played in Fargo and Minneapolis a couple times, and he was still phenomenal. Never missed a note. But you started to see a lot more alcohol. I mean, there was always alcohol on stage, but a lot more of him, like shots of tequila throughout the shows. And but I thought it was awesome. Shit. When I got pulled up on stage once and I got pushed backstage and they kept feeding me tequila and I was like, "Yes." But now when you look back on it, you're like, "Oh, you can tell like shit." And then you add the lyrics of the album and you're like, it sounds like a guy who's really, falling down. So
And it's funny you mentioned that he was doing shots of tequila because the videos that I was watching today, he was, we don't get into the harder stuff, but we're a beer band, is what he said.
yep.
Like, yep. So he's graduating into the hard alcohol, so it's getting little more out of hand.
You were a drink. I mean, you were a drink. I started off a beer guy, but eventually I couldn't get drunk enough on beer. So then I switched to hard alcohol and then the shots, the same as he did. And before you know it, you're blacking out
You know, I,
6.
I had mentioned to you and about my alcoholism too, but I was almost predominantly beer.
Okay.
But at the end I could drink 30 of them. You know,
Sure.
and,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, and every once in a while I would have a Morgan Coke or something like that. Very
Yeah.
rarely would I do a shot. I didn't like shots because it seemed like anytime I did a shot I would puke, and I don't like puking. So,
Yeah.
but we'll talk
All
about that some other time.
right. Yeah.
So moving on then. Our
Okay,
last album on the list.
last album came out in 1996, and it is called Belly to Belly.
Now,
Uh,
can I stop you there for just
you
1 second
you
there?
go ahead.
I remember getting this, and was it Belly to Belly Volume 1? Is that a thing that I'm thinking of? Or,
You know, I remember that too.
and I'm thinking, okay, so there's going to be
Yep.
another, was there
Yeah.
ever going to be a Volume 2?
God, I'm glad there wasn't.
There was, but after they broke up, or at least there were talks, because they never released another album together as Warrant.
Right.
But originally there was supposed to be a volume 2.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot all about that. I remember that now, though, that clearly that it said Volume 1.
Yep.
Yep. So I'm going to let somebody else go on with this one. I don't have a whole lot to interject on this album. I just couldn't get into it, man.
Yeah,
It's just,
I don't either, other than, like I said, I remember picking this up, and I do feel like they tried really hard, and I don't know, did the grunge thing last longer than I remember in my head? But I feel like it was 91 to 96, and that was about it. I mean,
well, I wouldn't say that was it, because those bands that came out were still making albums. I mean, Soundgarden was making albums into like Black Hole Sun. I think that came out.
yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
I
But
think by 96 grunge was starting to die down.
starting to,
Then you were getting, like, I might be off in my timing, but you were getting into the Seven Mary Three, Collective Soul was starting to get big, but it's I bought here's a album flat I got at a show. But I bought, obviously I always bought the shit on the day it came out. And there is some songs that are kind of, you know, that are catchy. They're always very dark. AYM, In the End. There's a ballad called shit, what's it called? It's called Letter to a Friend. Indian Giver was kind of catchy. But then there was some shit that you're like, what do you there's like a song called Coffee House or something. Coffee House. And so there's a lot of filler, and again a lot of, if you there's another ballad, and so I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but there's another ballad called Room with a View, that is the most dark, and like, if you listen to the lyrics to that song, you would assume this is somebody who's like close to committing suicide. It's just the dark and desperate. So anyway, there is some decent songs, but there's also just a ton of filler, and you're witnessing a guy who's like losing his mind, I think.
I don't know. It's funny because Chris and I were talking about this a little bit, and I said I'm just going to pick the three singles because, and then he started playing them, and I knew the words. So
Right.
I obviously listened to it more than I can think I
Yep.
listened to it, because I can sing along to the damn thing. But I just, it just didn't hit me in the right spot. It didn't, just the way he sang on it didn't, he used a lot of weird phrasing, or the way he sang was really weird. A lot of falsetto, weird stuff that he threw in, and I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me. This is and I the writing may be good on some of it, but I just didn't give it. I didn't give it two thumbs up on this one, man.
And on this tour, I mean, he still wasn't missing notes, but he wasn't as fun and jovial. It started being like, okay, I'm gonna sing the songs, I'm gonna say some things to the crowd because that's what I'm supposed to do. But you just felt like, okay, he's doing it, but he's not really into it.
Became more of a job.
Yeah.
The time that I saw them in concert with him in '98, this was at Rock in the Hills in Botno. Did you go? Did you see
I
this
saw
show?
that too.
Do you
Yeah.
remember?
No, I don't remember. I was freaking hammered.
See, yeah, I probably wasn't at the time, but I got
I was there.
I remember seeing them.
You were there?
Yeah, I
I
remember.
went to Rock in the Hills every year except like
Okay.
one.
Great. So
Yeah,
I was pressed up against the barrier in front of the stage, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you can recall this too. But when they opened up the set, it was the band out there, and then Jani came sprinting onto stage. His hair was shorter than I'm used to seeing, obviously 98, I think everybody's was, but he had these like goofy goggles on.
Yep.
But I he was awesome, I
Yeah,
thought.
sure.
that's the one thing.
There was,
He was always awesome in concert,
yeah,
but like Anthony said, I think they're, if you'd have seen him on the Cherry Pie tour or the DFR, I can't say that, Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich, if you'd have saw him then compared to that to '98 when you saw him, it would have been, you would have noticed a
Yeah,
difference.
that's a huge regret I have that I didn't see those tours.
and
Yeah,
and I think there were nights where he was awesome still. You know, I mean, in the 95 to 98 era, I saw them so many times. And there were, he was always great. But some nights he was legitimately having fun. Like if you're a drinker, you like even when shit was bad, you occasionally had those great nights where you're like, yeah, it's awesome. And then some nights you were just like, fuck, you're hungover, you feel like shit, and you could still do it. So that's kind of, I remember some nights where he would just be like, yeah, it's the old Jani Lane. And then some nights where you're like, okay, he's still good, but it's not the party that it was before.
he was probably hungover from the night before
Oh,
or whatever, and yeah, it just wasn't the same. Yeah, and
yeah.
honestly, I would have to hand it to you guys on that because, like I said, I was friggin' hammered. I don't remember. I remember going to him and I remember seeing him.
They
And
played
that's about
later in
it.
the evening that night.
Yeah.
So if you started in the
Oh,
early
yeah.
afternoon, you would have been tore up by then.
It was usually a.m.
Yeah.
So
A buddy of mine who worked at a radio station saw him at Rick's Bar in Fargo, and this is in the early 2000s. And I wasn't there. I would think I was at some military thing.
okay.
But he said he got to go on the bus after the show, and he said Janie said that he goes, I drink until 9 a.m. I sleep all day. I get up and I start drinking for the show, and then that's my and he was hammered, obviously. And you just like when I heard that, I was like, no way. Like that's how bad it is. Like
And
so
I was thinking, man, he's playing Rick's.
right. Solo tour, not with Warrant. Yeah. But yeah, Rick's. I saw Enough's Enough at Rick's once, and there was like 75 people there.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
I mean, that's like the little club we have here in town too. It's called the O. Um, they have um, they have some pretty significant bands. Pop Evil. They've had Nonpoint. They've had
Steel
Steel
Panther all the
Panther.
time.
eh,
Fat Pussycat was just there. LA Guns has been there several times. So I mean, you get some pretty decent bands, but just to I just put Warrant kind of on a pedestal, and you think them
yeah.
guys a club like that just doesn't make sense, but whatever. I mean, you start there, you end there.
Yep.
Obviously,
Yep.
most bands probably. So
And I think he had developed a reputation by then as somebody who canceled shows, and so not a lot of promoters were going to take a chance on him. But if you're at Rick's and you can get him for a deal, because probably the bigger clubs in town were like, no, fuck, we've heard that this guy might not show up, he might cancel. So
yep, yep. It's kind of sad to think about all this stuff too, because I mean, what a waste of a talent. I mean, not
Yeah.
a waste because he did leave us with a lot of good stuff. But
Yeah.
what a sad deal that and you and I, Anthony, know what that's all about. I mean, we were in a hole at one time too and got ourselves out.
yep.
Unfortunately, he was not able to do that, and
If you go see, like, so I saw Warrant when they reunited in 2008 with Jani Lane. I saw the third show. It was at a casino. I think it was at the Shooting Star. They were phenomenal. but by the fifth show, and there's video on YouTube, he's gone on stage, and they broke up shortly. They did a couple shows where he was like that and messing up, and you can tell the band's just trying to hold it together, but he just looks gone, and he can't sing, and you're like, what happened? And obviously that leads to him dying 3 years later.
Between
Yeah.
the musical shift and the alcoholism, it's too bad that he couldn't keep it together, and the musical scene was dominated by the crap, to me, that it was. We could have got a couple more great albums from Jani, and that's
We did. We got Saints of the Underground.
yeah.
That was good. Back Down to One. It was also decent.
And this Jabberwocky stuff that I always have heard about.
I would love to hear that stuff because when I was talking about those two songs he played at his home video there, he had said something as I got to go play a show or something like that, and then he says, maybe this will something about the Jabberwocky thing. He goes, it'll shut them, quit making them quit asking about fucking Jabberwocky or something like that.
There are songs, Private Blue World, Saltwater. There are some, I don't know if those are specifically Jabberwocky, but there are some Jani Lane songs floating around on YouTube that were never released. I assume they're part of the Jabberwocky project, and some of them are very good. I wasn't big on Back Down to One. Saints of Underground was pretty good, but I felt like even if he didn't stay a rock star, if he had gotten sober, he could have been somebody who was writing ballads for country singers.
Oh, absolutely.
And making a great living and being hailed as the great songwriter he was.
He could have wrote several books.
Yeah.
There's just so much that we're missing out because of alcohol, and that sucks. It really does.
Do you think? Now, I don't have that issue, but I have close family, and I don't want to get into it right here, that I care about that does. Is there? I feel like we're getting deep now, but I feel like there's people that can drink every day and not be an alcoholic, and I think there's people that they're predisposed to become an alcoholic by it. I don't know how to put it into words, but do you think there, in your in your battle with it, was there a traumatic event that started it? And then I would ask the same question to Chad, but
mine was my family was a lot of alcoholics. I had 3 brothers pass away from it.
so I know I feel like it is genetic to
my
a
mom
point.
and my dad worked in a bar all his life. My mom was an alcoholic. She actually went to treatment once. So you see this growing up, and you think that's what you do, and that's what I did.
I think there's a lot of people who have tons of trauma that never ended up alcoholics. But I completely agree with what you said. There's alcoholism in my family, aunts and uncles who struggled with it for years, and so I just was, I think, predisposed to it. So I have 2 kids, and if they start drinking, to me, they have a 50% better chance of becoming an alcoholic than 2 of my best friends who are married. We all went to college together. They can still, every now and then they go out and get drunk, but they can then leave it for a month and then maybe do it again. Whereas if I got drunk today, I'm sure tomorrow I'd be like, fuck, when can I do that again?
That's why I quit too, Anthony. I didn't have an off button when I started.
Oh.
I wasn't one of those guys who could go in and have 1-2 beers. I
don't know.
couldn't do it. I drank to get drunk, and that was what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's why that was if I could still do it today and sit down and be a social drinker, I would do it. But
Shit, yes.
can't.
Well, I ask because we talked about this before we came on, about the traumatic event, and I don't know if it's true or not, but in Bobby Brown's book about Jani being raped.
Yep.
Say it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
You didn't
complete
know.
news to me. I did not hear that before, and as I was doing some research, watching some videos on YouTube today, that popped up, and I'm like, I didn't even watch it because I'm like, that's such horseshit. You know, they'll say anything to get a click on a YouTube ad. And then I was talking to Chris about it, and he goes, "No, it was actually something that happened." And I'm like, "You're kidding me!" So I had no idea about it.
There's a video on YouTube. Janie's doing an interview. He's on a tour bus, and the guy is like saying like, hey, can I ask about this? Can I ask about that? And Janie goes, man, you ask me whatever. I mean, I've been through everything, blah, blah. I've been this, I've been raped, he says. And he just says it, and he just keeps going. There's not a holy shit, wow, can I ask you about it? Just, but it's him. And then Bobby Brown says it in her book. And I don't want to get into the rumors because I don't want to suggest, but there are rumors about who it potentially could have been. But I mean, so I assume it to be real just because of that interview where Janie says it. So
Okay, and the other thing we discussed is time frame. Did this happen while they were Warrant?
yeah, well, uh, or at least what I gather is when Warrant is getting ready to maybe sign the big record deal. And so the rumor is that like a big metal rock star and his manager. And so were they actually signed? Had DRFSR come out? It seems to me that it seems like this was beforehand. Maybe the labels were wanting to sign them, and maybe these people were. Anyway, that's.
Yeah.
Well, if it is true, fuck that guy.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
hate whoever would ever do something like that. They
sure,
need to be put behind the barn and shot. But
yeah.
that's crazy to me. I never heard that, and now now it's in my head. Now I got to go look it up and
Yeah,
research it.
and we
Because
do
that's what I do.
get off on tangents, and we just did.
Yeah, we do.
Steer it back to our 3 favorite songs on Belly to Belly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I can sing along to the song, so I apparently listened to it a few times. But I'm just gonna go with "Feels Good," "Angry Young Man." I knew I was gonna pick "Angry Young Man" and "Indian Giver" because I like those two songs of the ones I like, and I can't. "Feels Good" just seems like the other one that I should pick.
Okay. For me,
Yep. Go ahead.
okay, Feels Good for sure is one of my 3. I should have probably thought of this ahead of time. I like Vertigo for whatever reason. Maybe I feel like I've seen a live video of this song somewhere. And actually, they probably played it at that '98 show I was at. And then for my third one, in the end, there's nothing. It's depressing, but those are my 3.
But it's kind of, I mean, it's depressing and feels good. Feeling this bad is catchy, but they're depressing, but they're catchy. I mean, the guy was. So mine are "Letter to a Friend" is kind of ballad-esque. Excuse me, AYM and "Feels Good," and then I did mention that song "Room with a View." I don't know if it's a favorite, but there is a part. It's a slow song, but it's a part where it just explodes in the chorus that I love. So I'll just give that an honorable mention.
Cool. All right. Well, that wraps up those. So now we just got to break it down to our albums, top 5, and which rank do you want to do them?
Count down from 5 to 1.
Should we do a countdown 5 to 1? We each one of us say our 5 and then go to the 4, or should we each person do their 5 to 5
I
to
think
1?
we should do. We'll each say our 5, and then we can start it off, you and me, and
Okay.
Yep.
Me first.
Go for it.
Number 5 is going to be "Belly to Belly" for me.
And it's no surprise that that's going to be my 5 too. I actually debated on that being 4, but it's 5.
"Belly to Belly" is also my number 5.
Okay, my number 4. This is a difficult one for me because I like it a lot. and I'm gonna say Ultraphobic.
Okay.
But I mean, god dang, the first 4 albums, it's so hard to pick 1 through 4 on those things. I mean, I even had a trouble with the top spot for me. So, but I'm gonna stick with Ultraphobic as my number 4.
No.
Are you cheating off me?
Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah, no, that's mine too. I'll just keep it there. Keep it simple. Ultraphobic number 4.
I'm gonna qualify my ranking by saying this. I'm going by how I think about these albums now and what I listen, so my number 4, which might surprise a lot of people, is Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich. Because even though I love that album and it was super important to me, when I go back to listen to Warrant now, that would be the 4th album that I would listen to.
And if I was honest and did that, what you just did, that would be the same thing with me because I listened to Ultraphobic way more than I listened to the first album.
Okay.
But
It's all right.
But the first one is the first one.
Yep.
Hold a special place in my heart.
So
sure.
we're number 3. That is going to be Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich for me. And yeah, I mean, like I just said, I mean they're all, the top 3 are just all could be top.
Yeah. So
for me anyway.
I'm gonna just do something different for my 3 then, but I, like Anthony used the word pre-qualify. I'm gonna pre-qualify this, saying that it's almost a tie at 1 for these 3 for me, but I'm gonna put Cherry Pie at 3. Okay. And then when I get to my 2, I'll tell you why I did that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. My 3 is Cherry Pie. So I got Belly to Belly, DRFSR, Cherry Pie. Okay.
Okay. Now we're top 2, right?
Yeah, we're top 2.
Top 2, and I'm still debating right now in my head. Oh.
Here, this will help you. Debate. Wait.
Yes.
Wait, something's gonna happen. Come on.
2 and 2.
Something's supposed to happen.
I know. God damn it. I'm having a tough one with this one because they're both so good and I like so many songs off of both of them. And I am going to put Dog Eat Dog second.
Okay. Oh, there he goes.
There, I got it.
You had to do it by your face there.
Oh, really?
Now, what is that? How you doing that? That's part of your...
That is wicked.
I learned how to do this from Ryan on a video that we did a couple days ago. I was like, because I would do videos and I would like just be talking and all of a sudden like confetti or balloons or some shit. And I'm like, wait, how did I do that? And then so Ryan was teaching me stuff. So
that built into the Zoom that we're using, or is that?
Yeah, like you guys can do it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, you got to do it into the camera.
We got our camera up there. Okay.
You guys can. Okay.
I can't do it. We're a bunch of losers.
2.
We're going to do this for hours afterwards,
Yeah. We're going to play around. Yeah, 2. Your 2 was Dog Eat Dog?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring back up what I just said about, I feel like these 3 are all tied for number 1. I'm going to pick Dog Eat Dog as well, which then that leaves my number 1 being the debut, but we'll go to Anthony.
So my number 2 will be Ultraphobic.
Okay.
And just again, now you know what my number 1 is, but I revisit Warrant. Ultraphobic is a big part of what I listen to these days.
And I totally understand that, and that could have been top 3 for me easily because I listen to. It's kind of funny. I listen to. Well, my number 1 is Cherry Pie, except for that song. Okay.
Right.
I have to qualify that because I am so sick of that song. I could about puke if I hear it. So every time I listen to the album, I skip that song. And I play the rest for sure. Did you do that, Anthony?
I just had like a pop-up.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought that was another trick you had or something. I'm like, what the hell was that?
No. I got an email. So you
Oh,
heard
okay.
the
But yeah, Cherry Pie. There's so many damn good songs, and like I don't know if it's my all-time favorite is probably I Saw Red or Blind Faith, one of those two, and Mr. Rainmaker. My they're right up there for my top three Warrant songs. So, and they're all on that album. That's kind of why I went that way. But I find myself listening to Ultraphobic and Dog Eat Dog a little more than I do that album now because I've heard that one so many times. I'm trying to catch up the other ones.
So we somehow worked it out where we all had three different number ones, but they're the number one that I said was a tie almost.
Yeah.
I saved the debut, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich for my number one, and my reasoning is it was the first. It has mine and my wife's song on it. Yeah, and I just think
it's what got you there.
Yeah, it's what started my Warrant journey, so to speak. So that's my number one.
Cool.
mine is Dog Eat Dog, and I feel like that was the album where the casual fan abandoned them, but I was like, you know what? They had songs like Heaven and I Saw Red and Mr. Rainmaker that were so important to me, and I'm gonna stick with the band. So it was like it became a special album because suddenly they weren't at the top of the charts, but I was still gonna stay with them. That's when they kind of became my band.
That's funny you say that because that's kind of way Ultraphobic is for me.
Right.
I thought enough people stayed with them through Dog Eat Dog when Ultraphobic came around, and there was like nobody listening to them at that time.
Well, that's how I felt. I did feel that way about Dog Eat Dog, and it's such a good point that you make about that being a true Warrant fan is gonna bring that album up, like we talked about before.
Yeah, and for people to, obviously people are not as entrenched in this as you and us three are, but to abandon on an album of Dog Eat Dog's stature is just ludicrous to me. Doesn't even make sense. Doesn't even calculate in my head how people could not listen to that album and go, "Whoa, this!" First time I heard it was it was a little different. When it kicked off as Machine Gun, it was a little more rockin', a little heavier. It sounded like, but to me that intrigued me and then made me go on further into the album. And I mean, you still have All My Bridges Are Burning and Bonfire, which I think could have been on Cherry Pie easily.
Well, there's a lot of things that killed it. Is the music scene. The MTV wasn't playing it. It wasn't on the radio. But the guys who bought the first two Warrant, I mean, you're going to get those girlies or whatever that picked up the first Warrant album for the Heaven. And
true enough.
The guys that are screaming, "Play fucking Cherry Pie" at the concert, those guys that picked up the second album. But that third album should have been way bigger. And that's just our opinion.
Well, and I just make the assumption that everybody likes music like we like music, but they don't. They're
right.
fair day fans or whatever they call it, fair weather fans or whatever.
Yeah.
They want to hear the hits and that's it.
And that's I was just going to make kind of that same point. I mean, Warrant was on the radio and on MTV for the first two albums, and a casual fan after those two albums were big was like waiting for MTV to say, "Oh, who do you like next?" So then they were going on to Alice in Chains and Nirvana, and then a couple years later they were like, "Okay, here's Collective Soul," and I happen to really love Collective Soul, by the way. But people who are more into music and dig deeper into it, fans like we were like, hey, I'm still looking for shit that I'm not just waiting for what's the next in thing, so
right. And I don't know how else to say it, but I mean, I followed along and I don't know why you can't like it all.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I love Alice in Chains. I love fucking Stone Temple Pilots and all that shit. And I even get into Breaking Benjamin and all that stuff. I like it all. But I mean, my core, my heart always lies with 80s because that's where it all began for me. Yeah. And that's the stuff that I took the time out to read their liner notes and this and that. Now it's, I like the music, but I don't dig into it like I used to and put forth the effort to know all the band names, know their favorite color and fucking shit, stupid shit like that, like you when you used to read Hit Parade and Circus. So it's different because music's so accessible nowadays. So I like the new music, but it's not like, like an old friend.
Yeah, I
so
don't
to
know if
speak.
there's like Metal Edge was my favorite one back
Yep.
in. I don't know if there's something like that for the
I-
new generation, so to speak, but
There
I'm
isn't.
not out there picking it up like I was.
Yeah.
You never like anything like the stuff that you liked when you were coming of age.
No.
Yeah.
It just holds that spot in your heart that it's never gonna. There's no music that's gonna come out that's gonna replace that because it's not gonna
Right.
happen again. So yeah, so that's why we do what we do and why we talk about this stuff all the time, to kind of keep it alive in everybody's brains.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're probably hitting about an hour 45 episode, which is fine.
Yeah. And
Um,
I had a lot of fun. This was great. Thank you so much to the Hair Metal Guru for coming on, and he's been putting our stuff out there for his listeners. He's got considerably more listeners than us, so we got to thank him for that. And we'll definitely do another episode in the future for sure.
Hey, thank you guys. And I would love to have you on my channel sometime to talk about something. Let's get that set up. But man, it's awesome to connect with other guys from North Dakota that are doing the same thing, and we all got to help each other out. And so, really appreciate you having me on. It was a blast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Anthony. And I guess that's a wrap for this episode of Rock Resurgence Radio. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Like, tell a friend. Hey, check out Hair Metal Guru. His channel's awesome. He's got a lot of great videos out there. You can spend your time between his channel and our channel, and that'd be just fine with me. So with that, you got anything else?
I don't got anything else. All that shit you said, right on. And thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed our content. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. We'd greatly appreciate it. Links to everything we discussed will be included in episode notes. Feel free to check those out as well. Until next time, stay golden, Pony Boy, and rock on.